Hey everyone, it's Tom Seymour from VHS Massacre. Gonna just do a little update for you. Haven't done a podcast in a bit, since last year, if you will. But it's been a pretty busy holiday season, and you know how it always is. There's a lot of stuff going on, and so I wanted to take some time until I had something to sort of talk about and get my thoughts together. But one of the coolest things is, 2023, it's 2023 now, and it occurred to me, it's like, well, what am I doing in 2023? Well, our horror film, The Exorcism of Fleete Marish, it's time to start looking into film distribution. And so the film itself has done really well. It had 5 wins and a dozen official selections. Some of the wins are from the Horror Bowl, the Swedish Film Awards, the Independent Horror Movie Awards, and then Tim Cooley got some composer awards for his original score. So we did pretty well with that, all considering, and so I think the next choice is to ask, what are we going to do with this film? My standby has been Trauma for the last 10 years. Basically 4 different projects, 2 feature-length documentaries, which VHS Massacre 1 and 2, that have won over 30 awards, and then MacLeod, the short doc about composer Ken MacLeod, and then the original series for Trauma, Monster Kill. So when it came to Exorcism of Fleete Marish, it's a sort of atmospheric horror film. I think the idea was to, we were thinking, Tim and I, let's try something different, So we looked into MVD Group, which I've been working with them for years. They have a few of my films, my older films, Everything Moves Alone and Land of College Prophets. And they put them out there through various streaming sites. And it is actually nice to have your stuff on 2 different labels, to not have all your eggs in one basket. So I have my films with Trauma, and I have some films with MVD, and I think that it's going to work well. Talk with people at MVD. It looks like maybe mid 2023 we're going to try to put this out, and then digitally, and that will kind of hopefully move into the Halloween. It's in the summer, but then Halloween will come around, and hopefully it'll have a second life because it's a sort of a monster movie. So I think that's what we're gonna do. For filmmakers out there, if you're a horror filmmaker, if you want that street cred and you want to be part of the Trauma crew that has launched so many people's careers, head of DC now is James Gunn. You got people like Matt Stone, Trey Parker, Eli Roth, Marissa Tomei. Everything from Costner to Sam Jackson have made films, have at least performed in films that Trauma has put out and produced. And so they have a long legacy, not unlike Roger Corman. Roger Corman on California had launched careers like a lot of independents like Scorsese, Coppola, performers like Jack Nicholson, and directors like Ron Howard, stuff like that. So, but over the years, Lloyd has really proved himself, along with Michael Hers, as someone who can have a sort of minor league of filmmaking and the independent filmmaking, and have some pretty amazing talent come out of it. So so Trauma is good for that respect. You're probably not going to make a lot of money through Trauma because independent film in general doesn't make that much money, and they have a brick and mortar place and they have to keep the lights on and stuff like that, and they sort of have a specialty of sort of the horror comedy sort of thing. MVD works with filmmakers and they have a pretty massive catalog. MVD is very interesting because they are a full-fledged distributor, but then also you can just put your movie with them and they'll do sort of a revenue share with you. But MVD is strange because you'll see like a 4K RoboCop or something like that, let's say, to come out, you know, in physical media through MVD, or digital release of some smaller independent film. So MVD is you could say it's less focused, and it may even have a larger catalog because it's not, MVD is not necessarily acquiring rights. They're sort of a middleman for the studio system, but they are a distributor. So it is nice to have that, because if you're an independent filmmaker, it's not that different from being a novelist. So when you finish a film, like when you finish a book, you want to have a publisher, right? So when you finish a feature-length film, you want to have a film distributor. And that's not to say, if you can make a go of it with self-distribution, that is a really good way to, that's also a decent way. But for people like me who've been in the industry for about, 20, 25 years, we really took pride in having distributors because it put us in the professional realm. And it's just not something that I see great value in having a film distributor. And so if you can, it can potentially help you, but they will take a cut of the money. And some people, they think with the technology the way it is, there's no real reason to have a distributor now because you can do it all yourself. But I think one of the things that you're signing on to is that the distributor is going to have some budget and expertise for marketing, where I can no longer expend, that much, revenue. I can't spend my money on marketing and stuff like that, and I don't want to. So it's good to have a distributor, if that's your thing. But if you want to distribute solo, that's great too. No judgment there. But so that's the two differences. But if you are spending that much time on a feature-length film, which would technically be anything over an hour, though most independent films are, let's say, 70 to 100 minutes, just don't just put it on YouTube unless you're one of those amazing people who has like 1 million subscribers or something. So that is basically what the deal is with Exorcism of Fleete Marish. I'm pretty excited about it. I completed the deliverables. So deliverables are the files. These days it's typically all digital files of a film. So deliverables for Exorcism of Fleete Marish consisted of a Apple ProRes 1080p HQ export, because I didn't shoot in 4K, so I didn't want to upscale it. So it was shot in 1080, so it's delivered in 1080. Apple ProRes HQ. Then they want the trailer that way. Then they want all the key artwork that way. Now, if you're distributing for let's say a distributor that is basically acquiring the film for a certain amount of time, they're going to want even more. They're going to want closed captioning. They're going to want your full paperwork. That's everything from actors releases to locations releases to contracts to music licensing paperwork, master and sync licensing. And so with something like VHS Massacre, the deliverables to Trauma were really extensive in regard to the paperwork. With MVD, they're really working more with you. So you're on the hook if anything goes bad, But that being said, so I finished the deliverables for Exorcism of Fleete Marish. That was a good feeling. I always buy an external hard drive. Typically, I'm mailing that external hard drive off to the distributor. But recently, MVD is trying this thing called Media Shuttle, which is interesting because it apparently has no limit. Like you could literally upload a terabyte to that. It's kind of like an FTP site. It would just do it over the course of days, you know. But I had about 80 gigs worth of material that 86 gigs, something like that, 87 gigs that I basically uploaded over the course of a night. Just left it going overnight. And it seems like it did actually go through. So now I can just take this hard drive and store it, you know, because anytime I have a master, I try to have 2 physical hard drives stored in a cabinet somewhere. I try to have the master, even if it's like slightly compressed, like H.264 or something, I try to have that master digitally online somewhere, even if it's an unpublished YouTube link and a Google, you know, a file in my Google Docs. You know, say H.264 1080p, maybe it's only like an 8 gig file or something instead of an 80 gig file, but at least it's something, you know. So that's the kind of thing what I'm doing when I'm delivering a film. Another cool news, I finished a script, and it's submitted for copyright, and I got confirmation. So copyright 2022, I actually submitted it before the end of the year. I was surprised, you know, I was a little under the weather, so I was writing through Christmas break, and I managed to finish the script. It's about 92 pages, and it's called Grand Falls Killings. It's a sort of thriller horror, and so what I'm planning to do with this thing is I'm having a bunch of writers read over it and give me some notes. So far, the feedback's actually been positive. I was surprised. One of my friends, John, compared it to Cormac McCarthy stuff, which is, you know, I think he was just being nice, but that's a really nice comparison. And, you know, without going into the plot too much, you know, it's a sort of a horror thriller. And so, you know, when you finish a script, obviously it's good to copyright it. Typically I would do 2 things. The Writers Guild of America actually used to take submissions, and you could get a verification from them. And then what I would also do is, what I did with this one is I submitted to the, I believe this Library of Congress, but you're doing a proper copyright. So you get something in the mail that says that you were the sole creator of this artwork, which is cool. So I did that, and then now I think, you know, I'll get some feedback, change some things. One idea I have was to make a sort of, I called it a sort of movie Bible, but I've been generating some images through Midjourney, just images, you know, that could be representative of the film. And I was going to make a little book, and it would be, you know, Grand Falls Killings. It would be basically like a horror story in screenplay format with illustrations. Now, I don't think it will sell particularly well, but if I can come up with some kind of cheap way to publish it and buy about 10 copies, I do have some people in the industry I can push that stuff to. And then I think the idea was to push the script to some contests, some screenwriting contests, which I am a little weary about. Some are some who have been good in the past here are a bit questionable now. They're somewhat compromised by the fact that you know, when things become too big in the film world, they get a little corrupted. What happens is they become just a portal for studios to push their scripts through, give people awards, knowing full well that the studio is just going to produce it right away, you know. So, but you know, it is one avenue. So I think I'm going to try it. The difference, I think, with film festivals, some people might be saying, well, what's the difference between that and a film festival? Well, film festival, very often you screen your film, and you can invite your friends and family to see it, and other people will see it. And then you also have potential to win an award, you know, or even if it's a contest online, you can get some publicity, and it may get more eyes on the actual film because you already have the film as a product. So film festival circuit, I think, have many advantages over screenwriting contests. But it's still something that I can explore. So it's something new. I have never done that, and that should be fun. And so I'll kind of let you know what happens with that. I'll do research on it and try to come up with a list of potential screenwriting contests I think maybe I found are worth the money and whatnot. So we'll see what happens with that. Beyond that, that is the two things that I've been working on. Exorcism of Fleete Marish film release to happen this year, possibly mid-2023. And then Grand Falls Killing screenplay to be cleaned up and submitted in the screenwriting festival circuit. And then from there, I'm pretty. That's pretty much what I have going on. There's still something on the way back burner, and I have a few trauma interviews, and some stuff that I have not done anything with. I don't know what that could become or what the deal is with it. That's something on the way back burner. But I don't think there's any VHS Massacre 3 or American Expendables doc on the horizon. But it is something that, at least on a rainy day, I can kind of play around with. And then besides that, in other news, VHS Massacre 2 kind of left off with this concept of streaming censorship of independent content. And a lot of strange things have happened with that. One of them is that Peacock, which is NBC Universal streaming format, one of the largest studios in history, now has VHS Massacre 1 streaming on it, along with some of Troma's best films. So it does make you wonder, I think at this point, people are more interested in properties with known names. So VHS Massacre is a recognizable documentary series with over 30 wins, and then movies like Toxic Avenger and Class of Nukem High. I think some of these sites are sort of desperate for content. So they're actually looking at places like Troma and NBD. I saw a somewhat of an uptick in some revenue from my NBD titles. Not very much. It'll be years till it breaks even, but I think it's worth doing. So we look at streaming, and there's some pretty strange things going on. Disney, the tech industry is crashing, so the value of the stock is all dropping. And then I think some of the subscriber bases are starting to shrink. And I think what we've seen in this last 2 years is that oh boy, there is a top to the streaming site. It's not limitless in regard to streaming. Streaming has a cap. There's only so many people who are going to pay for this type of stuff. And especially when you have websites like Tubi that are free, and other sites like Pluto, which I find kind of messy. I actually deleted Pluto recently because I find it a bit too messy. It does make you wonder what is going to happen with the future of independent film. In one way, it's good, like so many of these places like Netflix and Prime and Disney and Hulu and Peacock, they make it to a point where they can no longer fund things that are incredibly expensive, right? So they may actually have to turn to underground and low-budget film in order to sort of fill in their roster of films, because they can't make these $100 million TV shows and movies anymore. They have to kind of fill it in with independent content. So anyway, it's getting a little chaotic around here. It sounds like Alexa's going off a little bit. Anyway, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.